Hello YouTube, shintigercurl here, that dude in the straw hat, bringing you a more of a, not a rant video, but an educational video, at least when I try to be educational. Now, it's 2015, and that means next year we'll be saying goodbye to President Barack Obama, and we'll be introducing a new president into our who will lead the country for the next 4 or 8 years. So, seems like the clear and obvious choice is one Hillary Rodham Clinton, a woman who has had more time in the political atmosphere to show herself to be a politically sound and capable woman than any of her opponents. Now, I've seen pretty much all of the would-be Republican candidates for the office of President of the United States, and I can tell you this much: they're not getting anywhere near the White House. I'm not saying this because I don't like Republicans. I particularly don't. But I've always had a knack for picking presidents since I was a little kid. When my parents always asked me who should they vote for before I was of voting age. I always voted. I didn't particularly know much about politics, being a dumb 8-year-old kid. I just happened to vote like who. Have them vote for who I like. I liked George Bush Sr. I loved Bill Clinton. I could tolerate George W. Bush. And I love Barack Obama. It had nothing to do with politics. And it's because I'm a student of history. I love history. I can't get enough of it. I'm always watching the History Channel. Doesn't matter. I could be. Everybody else is. All my family are like, "Oh, look what's happening on BET, blah blah blah, Love and Hip Hop, all that other stuff." I watch the History Channel religiously. I love their shows. One of my favorite programs is called The Presidents, a documentary series detailing each and every president from Washington to Obama, profiling their career heights, their flaws, all of it. And you kind of get it, and I kind of got the sense that, well, there's a certain quality that a president needs to have. It's not now. Unfortunately, that quality is lost on the Republican candidates. I'm not saying this because I have no party allegiance to anyone. I'm saying this purely as someone who's capable of looking at things through the lens of history. Because history can change things. Now, people say that Barack Obama is the worst president that we've ever had. I say to them, you're fucking stupid. Because if you knew your presidential history, you would know there are at least half a dozen presidents that could be called the worst. That's why. What about James Buchanan? I believe that's who his name was. The president before Abraham Lincoln. Did nothing to stop bleeding Kansas. He saw secession on the horizon, did absolutely nothing to stop it. The worst war fought on American soil. Hundreds of thousands of lives lost because he did not act. Or Andrew Jackson. That's right, the man on the $20 bill. The Jacksonian age, the age of Jackson. And an entire age is named after the guy. He was a rough and tumble kind of guy who bar fighted and got into duels with guys, but people seem to forget that he was horribly racist to Native Americans, even the ones that fought on the side of the United States during the War of 1812. And even during small little wars like that, he would promise not to take their land if they help the United States, and in the end, he took their land anyway. He took their land and kicked them off their land, and we have the Trail of Tears, where hundreds of thousands of Native Americans died by forced relocation. And he couldn't do this. He shouldn't have been able to do it because the Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional. Andrew Jackson said, fuck it, I'll do it anyway. Yeah, that guy. Or let's not forget the man who has been called by a lot of historians the worst president to ever sit in the office, one Andrew Johnson. He was the vice president under Abe Lincoln. After Lincoln was assassinated, he became president. People seem to forget that the man was a horrible drinker who was drunk during his inauguration. He was also horribly racist, who deemed black people to be inferior both genetically, intellectually, and biologically inferior to white people, did nothing, and instead of Lincoln's plan to build the South back up, he wanted the South to be back the way it was, pre-abolition, pre the abolishment of slavery. And pretty much all that horrible racism that happened in the South, the KKK and lynchings and Jim Crow laws, all that could have been avoided if Johnson actually enforced some of those laws that he was supposed to be enacting, if he was actually providing protection for the newly emancipated slaves. But he didn't, and thus created an environment of racism and civil injustice for another 100 years or so. So yeah, you're saying that Barack Obama is worse than that guy? I always laugh and just say, you read a book. But yeah, it gets to the point where if you want to be president, it takes more than just spouting rhetoric, because that's all I'm hearing. All these politicians talking about this rhetoric, how Barack Obama is this. They've talked horrifically about Barack Obama. They've called him everything from a secret Muslim to a socialist, even though a lot of people don't know what the hell a socialist is, and people probably wouldn't even tell you the definition of the word socialist. Look, hold on. I'll look it up right now. I'm gonna look it up. Socialist or socialism. All right, here is the definition of socialism. Socialism is a social and economic system characterized by social ownership by means of production and cooperative management of the economy, as well as a political theory and movement that aims at the establishment of such a system. Social ownership may refer to cooperative enterprises, common ownership, state ownership, citizen ownership of equality, or any combination of these. There are varieties of socialism, and there's no single definition encapsulating all of them. They may differ in the types of social ownership they advocate, the degree in which they rely on markets or planning, how management is to be organized within productive institutions, and the role of the state in constructing socialism. That is the official definition of socialism. So you can learn something from watching this video. People throw. This is the problem with Republicans nowadays and people of that ilk. They're throwing words out there and not really thinking about what they mean. They're just throwing words out there that just spark the most fear, the most hatred, the most ignorance out of the entire public, just to keep the masses from actually thinking. When you think, you ask why. Why are you saying this? And this is just fear-mongering. This is why Barack Obama was elected president of the United States twice. Because he offered something that wasn't fear-mongering. He offered hope. And he continues to offer hope. Think about it. This is a man whose father was a member of a race who not 70 years ago did not have basic civil rights, where they were forced to sit in the back of the bus, or you couldn't drink from the same water fountain, who were denied service simply because they were black, who could not, if they were hurt, go to the same doctor as a white doctor, who couldn't go to the basic same facilities, who couldn't go through the same entrances as regular white people. If you told those same white people that 70 years later, the son of an African American would rise to the highest position in the land, they would call you crazy and stupid. And I would say that we have come farther than we have in the last 70 years, but unfortunately we haven't, because we've exchanged one kind of racism for another kind, with these attempts at curtailing the rights of gay, lesbian, and transsexuals. I've had friends of all three. They are nice people. And I'm not saying this because, I'm not saying this. It all comes down to this: basic human decency, basic human rights. A person should not have to worry about being rejected service simply because of who they marry or who they choose to love. A person should not have to worry about being victimized because they worship a different God from those who are in power. That word comes up a lot in all these Republican talks and all of these pundits and all these bigots. God has no place here. Just because you put God in front of something, it does not excuse you for hatred. You say that the Bible says a lot of things. People just cherry pick what they want to say in and out of the Bible. They pick one thing, so they just pick one part that says it's not right, and just go with that. Like, it's in the Bible, man shall not lay with a man. And to those people I say, yeah, you know what? That's a nice gold ring you got there. Yeah, you better take that shit off. That's a sin. You can't wear gold. Also, are you eating pork? Like bacon? Like ham? So no. Right, it says right there in the Bible. Also, if you talk shit about your president, yeah, you can't say shit about your tribe leader, i.e. your president. Working on Sundays? Yeah, it says, yeah, that's a sin too. Yeah. Have you ejaculated into a woman and without... Have you ejaculated into a woman without the... Have you ejaculated but not in a woman? I mean, beaten off? Yeah, that's a sin too. Yeah. Have you touched a woman who was menstruating? Yeah, that's a sin. That's a sin too. That's a sin. Pretty much and if people want to say, well, you're not supposed to take everything literally, but what about all this stuff you're saying about gays and homosexuals? Why are you saying that particular part is what they frown, what God frowns on? But I'm going to tell you like this. Sorry if I'm going on a little tangent here. God does not care about this kind of shit. If you look out into the universe as a whole, I mean, really, really look out there. We are infinitesimal. We barely make a fraction of a quarter of a percent of 1% of the total space that is in the universe. In the grand, right now we think of ourselves as the center of the universe when really we are barely a dot in the cosmic landscape. We have only seen a grand total of 5% of the total universe. And there's still more out there that we haven't been able to touch. There are things out there that would blow your mind if you really looked at it. There are wonders and horrors out there that make you probably scared and want to hide under your covers because it's so big and vast. And you really think that God Almighty, the creator of the entirety of this universe, would care about an election from a bunch of people from a country that makes up not even a quarter of the total landmass of a small blue orb orbiting a small sun in a nothing solar system on the edge of a small galaxy in a corner of space. That's like us worrying about what a group of ants are doing right now outside. It's beneath our notice. I'm not saying he doesn't care that we exist. I'm saying he doesn't care that as long as we're trying to be, as long as we're I'm not hooked on any religion. I believe in God. I believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. I also believe in the teachings of the Honorable Buddha, and I believe in a lot of other teachings because I'm not trying to condemn anyone. I just want spiritual understanding. A lot of people don't get that, especially politicians. They think just because you put God in front of something and you think God is on your side, God cannot be on everyone's side, because if he were, we would not have wars. Everyone thought that God was on their side. The British thought God was on their side when we fought the Revolutionary War. The Confederates thought God was on their side during the Civil War. The Nazis, the scum of humanity, thought that God was on their side. What happened to them? They all lost. but nobody want to think about that. But what I'm saying is, if you want to be president, take my advice. You need to show that you're more decent than you really are. Stop talking about gays like they're non-entities. Stop bashing Barack Obama. He's better than considering we could have had Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton or Herman Cain as our first black president. The great nation rolled the political dice and came up sevens. We hit the proverbial jackpot with a well-spoken, well-educated, intelligent man who wants to see everyone succeed. But no, and because people can't handle that, we're squandering him. But I know for certain that history will redeem him. History will look back at the 2 terms that President Barack Hussein Obama led, and said, hey, he had a hard job, but he did all right in the end. And that's more than a lot of people can say. I mean, he's not the only president from Illinois who was vilified during his time in office. Yeah. And you want to know who that president was? Go look on your pennies. He's on there. But yeah, if you want to be president, it takes more than just fear-mongering. You have to inspire hope, and not hope for a certain class, not hope for the upper crust, not hope for the supposed oppressed. Hope for everyone. And that's what Barack Obama represents, and that's what Hillary Clinton represents. The Republicans don't. They represent only a certain class, and that shows in everything that they do, because they say things that are not true and expect people to believe them, and doing so, they're calling you idiots. Essentially saying, hey, we're right, you don't need to believe anything else, we're just right, you don't need to believe anything else, just listen to us. And they're basically calling you idiots. So you can either sit there, pretend to be idiots and listen to what these people have to say, or do your own research and realize that 80 to 90% of the bullshit they've been spouting is total and complete bullshit. So yeah, that's my thoughts. This is what you need to be president. And they're alienating a lot of they're alienating a lot of people, saying, well, gays, the sanctity of marriage hasn't been sanctified in a long time. It also does another thing. You have to be realistic but hopeful, not delusional. Because if they get their way and they blame, and the homosexuals are the next race to be considered to be outcasts of society, it won't take them long to find another outcast of society. What about those people who don't believe in the same God as you? I mean, there are a lot of subsects of Christians. You got Anglicans, you got Presbyterians, you got Mormons, you got Jehovah's Witnesses, you got Baptists, all these different who don't believe in the same thing. What's stopping them from going? What's stopping the ones in power from going after them next? So yeah, just remember, it takes more than just fear-mongering to be president. It takes hope. So that's my little rant. If you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe below. If you have any intelligent arguments to present to me, leave them in the comments. I'll take a look at them and let you know. If you want to support the channel, click an advertisement or two. It literally just takes a second out of your day. Or if you're feeling very generous, there's the tip jar. Leave $1 behind. I could use a taco. Tacos are $1 here. So anyway, until next time, it's shintigercurl, that dude in the straw hat, saying good day, or good night in this case. And you're not getting in, Republicans.